So we all have little things that bother us about watches, little things that bother us about the watch industry, about things that people say about watches. So today I decided to put together a list of my top 10 things that are sort of annoying about watches, the watch industry, sort of a list of pet peeves about watches. I have 10 items on this list. I actually have more than that, so I'll add a few in between. However, I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to start with my number one. However, this is in no actual order. I just sort of picked these, and there is really no order of how annoying I find them. But number one is odd lug widths on watches. So a lot of watch brands come out with lug widths on their watches that are 21 millimeters, 23 millimeters. They do this because they want to keep business to themselves. They don't want you going out and buying aftermarket straps. They want you to buy their own straps. So Tissot is a really good example of this. Putting a 21 millimeter lug width on the C-Star 1000 sort of forces you to go to them to buy a strap. However, aftermarket strap companies have sort of caught on to this and started making 21 millimeter lug width straps. However, not very popular still, and it is a pet peeve of mine. If you're making a watch, put a 20 millimeter lug width on it. It makes people happier. A lot of people will not buy your watch because you put a 21 millimeter lug width. Just the facts. Next on this list is brands not paying attention to their lug to lug. A lot of brands do this. A lot of brands don't even list the lug to lug on their website, which I think is silly. A lot of people want to know this number. It really does make a difference in the way that a watch wears on your wrist. If you have a smaller wrist, or even if you have a larger wrist, this is a very important number. Also, brands not paying attention to their lug ends, putting male end links that are huge. They should really pay attention to this because it does affect the effective lug to lug of a watch. It's very important for a lot of people, and I think this is something that brands should start paying attention to and really focusing on and actually adding it to their website and their descriptions. Next on the list, another little pet peeve of mine, really nothing that really annoys me, but it's something that annoys me a little bit, and that is adding unneeded text to a dial. A lot of brands add tons of text to the dial to let you know the specs on the dial itself. They don't need to do that. That's kind of what a case back is for. Again, you probably should limit there as well, but there's a case back here. It's something that you're not going to look at every single day and be reminded. I don't need to be reminded every single day that there is a helium escape on my watch, or that it's an automatic movement, or that it's 300 meters of water resistance, and all of it all at once. I don't think I need that. On the case back is fine. Once I get the watch, I know the specs, and I don't need to be reminded of them every single day, every time I look at the watch. That's just me. A lot of people might like that. Next on the list is a display case back that really isn't needed. And usually when I'm talking about a display case back that isn't needed, I'm talking about a display case back where the rotor is not signed on the movement. So a lot of brands will put a display case back on a watch and they will not sign the rotor. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Part of the display case back is being able to see the movement. If you're putting a nice movement in the back of this watch, make it look nice. Put a display case back and put a signed rotor. If you're not going to sign the rotor, I'd rather you put a solid case back, sign the case back with your brand logo, do an etching, do something different. It actually will cost less money and it will make a lot more sense to me because it will actually look better than just a clear case back with a generic movement with a generic rotor. If you're going to make a generic movement, put a bespoke rotor, or at least sign it at the very least. It makes it look 10 times better in my opinion, even just a simple signature. Next on this list is something that I think is really important. This is unnecessarily thick watches. There are brands out there that make watches very thick for no reason. There are people out there who like thick watches, and I get that. You want to have a watch that's actually substantial, but when a watch is 15, 16, 18 millimeters thick, it is kind of crazy. You do not need a watch that thick. It actually eventually will hurt your wrist. You won't be able to get that under a sleeve of a sweater, of a sweatshirt. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be popping out. That's too thick, especially when you're getting down in size as well, because a lot of brands are getting down in size in that 40 millimeter range, 42 millimeter, 38 millimeter. If you have a 14 or 15 millimeter thick watch, that is actually very thick on a 38 millimeter watch or a 40 millimeter watch. So you want to really watch those thicknesses, and they are going up. So definitely something that is a little bit of a pet peeve for me. Next on this list is something that I think will be controversial. For me, it's a big problem. It's thick, double pass-through NATOs. I don't like them. It adds a lot of thickness to the watch, like we were just talking about the thickness of a watch. This adds up to 2 millimeters to the back of a watch, or 1.5 millimeters, depending on the actual NATO strap. Really thick NATO straps, I think, are kind of unnecessary. Unless you're actually doing something in the field and you need something that's really robust. If you're desk diving, you don't need a super thick NATO strap. It's going to make your watch way thicker than it actually is. It's going to wear way higher on your wrist, and it's really not that comfortable in my opinion. But that's just me again. That's sort of my own sort of take on the NATO strap. I've said this for a long time, and I say it in almost every video I do where there is a NATO strap. I prefer a single pass-through NATO or a traditional strap. Next is cheap clasps. A lot of brands are putting really generic cheap clasps on their watches, and it's something that I think all micro brands and especially major brands should be paying attention to. More and more watch collectors are looking at the clasp on a watch. It is a sign of basically attention to detail. Everybody wants micro adjust. It is very important, and watches that lack really good micro adjustment on the fly, or even sort of a manual pinhole adjustment, it really is something that needs to be put on every single watch. Those watches that are lacking those really aren't giving you the fitment that you can get on your bracelet, and it's really important. And that brings me also to pressed buckles. Pressed buckles on watches in general, I think, need to go out the window. That is a thing of the past. All buckles, including Seiko, and specifically I'm pointing out Seiko here, for even your inexpensive watches, you should be putting better clasps on your watches, and you should be putting better buckles on your watches, and they should be all milled, period. At this price point, doesn't matter, $200 to $2,000, no elements should be pressed, in my opinion, whatsoever. So that's basically covering all clasps for most price ranges. Sub $200, I kind of understand it if there are some pressed elements. You're kind of talking about saving money on a watch that's under $200 when you're putting it together. If something is pressed, I get that, but above that, definitely needs to have a better clasp. Next, this is more of a pet peeve on sort of people hating on Homage watches. I do a lot of videos, and I do feature Homage watches on my channel. A lot of people really hate on them, and I get it. There is a good reason to hate on a lot of different Homage watches out there, but there are a lot of people out there who want to own a style, a specific look, but they can't afford it, and they're not going out and buying a replica watch. So this keeps people from actually buying replica watches. I am all for it, 100% in. Even though a lot of people say that these are basically replica watches with the name switch on that dial, I get it, but this has been happening throughout the fashion industry, throughout time. Louis Vuitton comes out with a bag. There are 100 other brand makers out there who copy Louis Vuitton and almost copy it to a T. They change the name on it. They put their logo instead, and that is really the only difference. They're using the same colors, the same type of leather, the same way of putting the bags together. This has been something that's been going on for a very, very long time, and it's not unique to watches. It's clothing, it's cars, it's handbags, it's a lot of things out there. A lot of people copy other popular designs, and that's just the way it is. And it's major brands copying other major brands' designs. And that's kind of, what Tudor does. I like to bring this back to Tudor. I own a Tudor. I own a Black Bay P01. There is a Rolex version of that watch. So is it an homage to that Rolex? Kind of. The Tudor GMT, it has a Pepsi setup. It looks like a Rolex Pepsi GMT Master 2. There's a reason why. It's an homage of that watch. The Black Bay is an homage to the Submariner. It's just what they do. A lot of watches out there are homages. You could hate it, you could love it, but really don't call people out and get angry at people because they're wearing an homage or they like homages. I think if you don't like them, don't buy them. I think if you like them, enjoy them, and that's just the way it is. You don't really need to get mad over them. That's all I'm saying. So that's just a little bit of a pet peeve. I see a lot of people get mad about them. I think you just let people do what they want to do. As long as they're not buying fake watches, that's really all that matters. Next on the list is people hating on watch sizes. Now, I've seen this a lot also in my comments. I always like to say this watch is good for my wrist. Now, there are a lot of people out there who like watches that are way larger than the watches that I like. Right now, I always mention that my wheelhouse is sort of 38 millimeters to 44 millimeters. I have a very big wheelhouse. You know, a lot of people can't pull off all of those sizes, but some people don't like any watches that are over 38 millimeters, and they call anything over 38 millimeters a dish plate. Now, I get it. You don't like that size, but you really don't need to make fun of people who like larger watches. And then there's people who like larger watches who call smaller watches women's watches. You know, if it's below 44 millimeters, it's for a lady. That's a little crazy. I think people should just calm down. If you like it, it's what you like. If you don't like it, you don't need to really make fun of other people about it. Let's just all get along. It's not a big deal. It's just a watch. And, you know, like I said, I like big and small. I don't go over 44 millimeters, but do I hate on people who have over 44 millimeter watches? No. And in fact, I still buy watches that are over 44 millimeters. And sometimes I regret it. Sometimes I don't. The next two items on the list are sort of hand in hand, and there was recently a watch on my channel that had both of these issues, and it is non-hacking and ghost dates. And I always bring back to the Timex Hodinkee sort of collaboration. It was a non-hacking watch that also had a ghost date. I think in this day and age, there are tons of movements out there that are inexpensive that you can get that have a hacking function and have no ghost date. Why are we still using movements that are non-hacking and have ghost dates? The only answer is cost savings. So when you see a watch actually using a movement that does not hack, that is because they are trying to save money. And that's unfortunate. Now, is this a deal breaker for me? No. Personally, I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. If I like the aesthetic and sort of the function of the watch and the look of the watch, I will overlook a non-hacking movement or a ghost date position, maybe even both, depending on if I really like the look of the watch, because it's really not that important to me. Specifically the ghost date position. Hacking might be a little bit more interesting or more necessary, I think, for your day-to-day use of a watch. However, if it's a really nice watch, I can overlook it. But like I said, it is a cost savings measure, and it's something that watch brands need to stop doing. It's a pet peeve of mine. When I see a watch that has a ghost date or it is non-hacking, I kind of get a little mad about it because I know they tried to save money. That's really it. And last but not least, now this is way more than 10. I have another one on here, and it's just a little pet peeve and something that I've actually done. And I have to say it's been something that I've been trying to stop. Is describing watches as stunning. I do it all the time, and I'm trying to stop doing it. People describe watches as stunning, and really the definition of stunning is an extremely impressive or attractive watch. Something that you are stunned by. You are actually temporarily unable to react to it because it is so beautiful and so impressive. And I've said that about an SKX. Now, let's be honest. I'm saying I'm guilty of this. An SKX is not stunning. It's a beautiful watch. It's really nicely made. It's, a fun watch. Maybe not the best made watch in the world. I say that again, so I go back again. But it's maybe not the best watch in the world, but it's a good watch, and it's a tool watch, and it's useful. There are a million other adjectives that I could use, but stunning, I really don't. Like every time I look at my watch and I have my SKX on, I don't sit there and stare at it for a few seconds because I'm unable to react because it's so beautiful. That's not the case. Sorry. And in fact, I don't think I own a watch that I would actually categorize as stunning. And I own tons of watches at all different price ranges. And none of them, I would say, are stunning to the point where I would say this is extremely impressive or attractive to the point where I can't even react. It's so beautiful. No, I don't own that. I don't know who does, but if you do, then you're really lucky. I'm not. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just cynical after seeing so many watches. It could be also the case. Anyway, that's my list. Not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to put together a list here that sort of little pet peeves that really are kind of individual to me. However, I think a lot of people share a lot of these thoughts. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Add a comment. Tell me one of your pet peeves if it's not on this list. Tell me the one that you think is the most important one out of this list. If you had one on this list that you agree with, put a comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog, all one word. I have some links in the description. Those links are to Amazon. If you click those links and buy anything, it helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra. However, I very much appreciate it. Anyway, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.